battle between these two teams. Nice neutral map, very rotation focused, very team fight oriented, but at the same time, having strong push and wave clear can be very valuable for when you get that objective. So I'm excited to see what these two teams have in store and how they're going to finish this off. So it was Real Ultimate Mosh Pit that was able to select this map, and so it is going to be Burgers for the Boys on their first pick. You can't see it right now. Let me pan this out real quick. They're currently hovering the Ragnaros ban. It was obviously enough of a problem for them to deal with in Game 1 that they just don't want to worry about it again. Even though, in my opinion, it's not as problematic on this map, considering that when the objective pushes, it does push in all 3 lanes. So if he decides to use Molten Core in one, you can just run off to another one. And the solo lane is not as important because of how close it is and how easy rotations are, but nonetheless, they don't want to deal with the wombo combo potential of Sulfurous Smash and just the general pain that Ragnaros is. And for the 3rd time, we see that Real Ultimate Mosh Pit just doesn't want to even think about Lucio. Going to go ahead and take that right off the table. My best guess is that Burgers for the Boys will go for Malfurion. Even though, if I am correct, he does have a 0% win rate this series. Both teams that grabbed and wound up actually losing. So they actually are going to prioritize the ETC. Realize that that's more important. Having that initiation as well as taking it away from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit are not going to take the Malfurion. And so it is going to be the ETC first pick here. Maybe they've realized that the Malfurion wasn't as important as they thought it was. And so now it's up to Real Ultimate Mosh Pit for what they're going to take. Even though it's not their turn, I would also consider the fact that Burgers for the Boys might actually go Gul'dan again. This is one of his best maps alongside Brax's Holdout. So even though it didn't work out for them in Game 1, they might want to consider doing it again because of the map that they have found themselves on. So we will have to wait and see. Real Ultimate Mosh Pit now, what are they going to go with? The only thing that's really been a consistent thread in their teams has been the Great Mane. So I don't know if they'll do that again. If they since it's not exactly a highly prioritized pick, they may wait. And we see Zool. I haven't seen a Zool in a long time. He is good on this map. You put him in the 4-man rotation, just applies constant pressure to the structures. And so I'm excited about the Zool. It's been a long time since I've gotten to see one in action. I actually play him a little bit, but not extensively. So I want to let's see if Ultimate Mosh Pit has what it takes to get that Zool value. And we also see Malfurion come out, so already a good CC combo. Using the Zool route into the Malfurion route is a pretty substantial lockdown. So if they follow that up with anything else, and oh wow, we see I guess Front likes his Sonya. They're going snapping that up immediately, not going to give Real Ultimate Mosh Pit a chance to ban it. So that's already kind of scary. If I were Real Ultimate Mosh Pit now, I would really be thinking of a way of how to deal with that, considering how devastating it was to them in the last game. And we also see the Jaina pick, so that's a first for Burgers for the Boys. Coming out with the Jaina, I guess they're electing not to go for the Gul'dan. And they're looking for more of a burst-oriented team, have the ETC, the follow-up with the Jaina. Sonya also both pretty strong right now after the healing changes were made because she can kind of spec into either burst or sustained damage builds, depending on what talents you take. So I like what they're going with so far. We'll have to see who they go for support and presumably another backline damage dealer as to whether or not they just took the Jaina because their player is comfortable on it or if they have a broader plan in mind. So we see the Rhaegar ban coming out once again for Ultimate Mosh Pit since they already have the Malfurion themselves, as well as having banned Lucio, trying to force a bit of a support choke onto Burgers for the Boys. And so in doing so, limit their options. Meanwhile, we move over to Burgers for the Boys ban. Looking at Real Ultimate Mosh Pit's team, I'm not sure what the appropriate thing to do is. The only thing that really comes to mind is just go ahead and ban Greymane. Real Ultimate Mosh Pit's pretty good at it, even though they wound up losing the last game even with it. It's just something that they're obviously very comfortable on, so that would be the target ban of choice. Outside of that, I guess you could maybe try to force a bit of a Warrior choke. Maybe try to get rid of the Muradin, but they've already demonstrated that they're good with Tyrael as well, so I don't know if that's the correct choice. And they're actually thinking about the Li Ming ban. Even though they win it last time, they already have their own mage, so they just don't want to deal with it, don't want to worry about the snowballing. Is what it looks like anyway. So that's what they're hovering anyway. You can't see it. Let me pan that out again so everyone can take a quick look at what the draft looks like so far. And so we do see them hovering the Li Ming ban. And they do decide to lock it in. And so this is going to be the response from Ultimate Mosh Pit, maybe get a better idea of what exactly they're going to go for. I would expect, since they do have the Zool, that they will go for maybe like a 4-man rotation gank squad. Just trying to get kills on the enemy, especially since Johanna's not really an option for them, which is kind of like the go-to counter gank squad warrior if you are dealing with 4-man rotations because of Iron Skin. So we'll see what they go for. Muradin, I think, is a pretty solid choice. Does have the Stormbolt, which is an easy follow-up if the enemy is rooted. Once again, I've mentioned it previously, could go Varian, but that being said, his taunt was changed not his taunt rather, his Warbringer was changed to be a slow instead, so that combo is dead, at least to some degree. So what are they going to go for here? You know as much as I do. Like, Greymane is kind of the thing that I would expect, considering they've already gone for it multiple times. I wouldn't really call him a high priority pick, but if you're good at him, there's kind of no reason not to do it. And the Cocktail build will be helpful for wave clear on this map. Even though you already have Zool, every little bit helps. So we'll have to see what they decide to go for. And so they are going to lock in Diablo, as well as Zeratul. If you remember, Burgers for the Boys hovered the Diablo ban on the last map, so it looks like it's something that is probably played by Verdestrom on Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. We also see the Zeratul lock-in, so we already see the makings of a Wombo combo, Void Prism into APOC. I'll be curious to see what assassin they decide to follow this up with. The Jaina would be the obvious choice, but obviously it's been taken by Burgers for the Boys, so it's not really something they can afford to go with. So I wonder what they're going to do. I wouldn't expect them to go full melee. It's a possibility. It would just be really strange and kind of unorthodox, especially against Asanya. So I'm wondering how they will capitalize on the Void Prison APOC combo. Because you need a little more than that, I think, in order to really get value. Like, you need some burst follow-up. So something like a Gul'dan could work. He has the wave clear, as well as just like the AoE damage, and fearing out of the APOC could be pretty effective. Like, as long as you don't fear them literally out of the APOC, I mean, after the stun runs off, just further CC with the fear could work. So we see that the Sylvanas coming in again, and the Ariel, so they're running the Sylvanas Ariel combo again. It worked for them last time. They're not going to change things, even though I don't think Sylvanas is as strong on this map as she is on maps like Infernal Shrines and Battlefield of Eternity. The fact that her pushing power is slightly mitigated by the fact that the objective is spread over multiple waves. Since winning team fights aren't as important for achieving the objective, I think it works out, and they already demonstrated that they can do it. So we'll have to see if the Sylvanas pick works again, and if they manage to get more more value, as it were. And so now the final pick coming in for Ultimate Mosh Pit. We'll have to see what it is. I really don't know what to expect here. So instead of talking about that, I will mention that the one thing I don't like about the Sylvanas pick is that you are up against a Diablo. And so because you didn't opt for something like a Raynor or even a Vala with Manticore, like Tychus would have been the obvious pick, but even though I've mentioned it 1,000 times, I'll mention it once again, was a pretty substantial north. So they go for Falstad. My guess would be that they're going to look for a Hinterland follow-up then, especially with the cooldown reduction, might be able to get off multiple ones in a single fight. So even though I don't like the Falstad because of the kind of the lack of global pressure, the last time I said that when I cast a game yesterday, if any of you were here, if you either watching now or watching the VOD later, the game yesterday, oh goodness, I feel embarrassed. I can't remember the two teams. I would look it up, but the game's about to start, and so I will just let that fade away into the ether. But anyway, saw Falstad on this map, was a little skeptical about it, but despite the fact they didn't exactly get the global soaking pressure, did a really good job of just flanking the opponent using that mount. So maybe we'll see something out of this. I'm always skeptical of Falstad picks just because they never work out when they're on my team. But maybe we'll actually see something to impress me here. We'll have to see whether or not Falstad goes for the auto attack build or if he does go for gathering power. I have not seen a lot of mage stat builds lately, so I wouldn't exactly expect it. But it's a possibility. Falstad, even though he was nerfed pretty substantially, just one kind of small change at a time over the past several months. Even though he lost a lot of his power, still retains a lot of his versatility. And so going into Game 3, the final game in the match between Burgers for the Boys and the Real Ultimate Mosh Pit Division 2 Chair League. For Burgers for the Boys, we have Bravery on Ariel, Mostef on Sylvanas, Frontin once again on Sonya, just a terror right there. Vidits on ETC, and SIFU on Jaina. And for the Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, we have Minra once again on Malfurion, and Rolf the Dog on Zool. Judge Bread spinning around on that Falstad. Patam, instead of being Greymane, on Zeratul, and Dinkstrom, the tank main, on Diablo. I gotta say, I'm a tank main myself, so I always have appreciation for team captains who are also tanks. So, actually, Vidits is as well, now that I think about it, is also the team captain, so applause to both teams there. It looks like you chose the right leader. We tank mains are the best. I'm not at all biased. Anyway, moving into the early game skirmish, which is not happening. So good spread here by Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. They're not gonna get cheesed again, making sure that they have all lanes covered so that a Sylvanas can't get an early easy tower. A lot harder to do on this map considering how close the lanes are, so they decide to not even go for it. And so the 4-man rotation is actually pretty strong here for Burgers for the Boys. The ETC Jaina follow-up is really powerful on its own. It's just a question of whether or not Sylvanas will be enough damage to follow through to really get a kill after ETC initiates. Also, even though Zul was actually picked beforehand, I wonder if it might have been a preemptive counter. Oh, speaking of preemptive counters, even though it's not at all related, Zeratul almost going down there. Now that's a segue and a half. Anyway, good initiation attempt on ETC. Barely managed to get away from it. And so, well, I was actually kind of expecting the team with Sylvanas, just because I wasn't thinking about the Zul, to have a really easy time in the early game just counter-pushing using Sylvanas to get structure value, but Zul's wave clear is just so absurd, especially in the 4-man, that is actually going to be them more likely than not getting early game pressure onto the turrets, or actually maybe back and forth, but we see that this one right here is taking a little bit of damage, these two towers right here, but top left and mid right are both unscathed, so might just be a lot of back and forth in the early game. It's a lot of wave clear. Both teams have relatively threatening lockdowns, so I expect neither of them to play super aggressively. On the one hand, you have Jaina and ETC power. Actually, maybe I spoke too soon. Verdestrom going in the paint. Gets initiated on by ETC, taking a lot of damage off. Furin doing his best to heal him. Will he manage to get out? The slow from Jaina was not quite enough, and he is barely able to get away. Take a quick look at the talents, and we see that Jaina is going cross-belt build, but I can't talk about the talent so long. There's a fight breaking out. Baton playing really aggressively on Zeratul. Flip on ETC, putting him in the middle of the enemy team. Verdestrom, however, getting pressured by SIFU. Vedits almost goes down. Clutch heal there from Ariel, helping him stay alive. And so Verdestrom goes and heals enough that he did take Devil's Due, so those heals are going to be pretty ridiculous. Does not have Bulwark, but that being said, I still like taking Devil's Due on maps where you're going to be rotating a lot and getting lots of globes. It just really helps you sustain and allows you to play more aggressively. Katanga initiated on Vedits. He's going to throw out the bomb, ends up getting knocked away by the face melt. Taking a quick peek bot lane. We see Frontin is... My goodness, man, this Sonya, I don't want to play against that ever, man. It just looks like it's not a fun party. Judge Brett on low health, basically 0 mana, and Frontin just running around, not even taking a hit, really. It does not look like a fun thing to lane against. Frontin is really showing his wrath. And we do, however, see that Real Ultimate Mosh Pit doing a good job of just eating away at those tower shots using the Zul trait. Sylvanas getting initiated on. Looks like, okay, does actually manage to get away with the Haunted Wave. I didn't know if it was off cooldown or not. So a good escape there from Mostef, just getting out of trouble. Vita's doing a good job zoning away the enemy team. And I think this is going to be very similar to the game on Dragonshire, where we just see a lot of back and forth without a whole lot really happening until teams start to hit ults. I may have spoken too soon, though. Verdestrom in trouble. Gets initiated on by ETC. Mouth barely keeps him alive. Patam and Ralph doing their best to apply pressure. Good blink away there by Patam after the rest of his team had escaped. So even though there is going to be a lot of pressure coming from both teams, I really don't know if there's going to be... If either of them really has the means to just full to zero someone if the rest of the team is there. I think the most likely place we're going to see action is bot lane if Judge Brett continues having difficulty with Sonya. We do see that now that he's reached level 4 and has hammer games, we'll have an easier time of dealing with it. Not to say it's going to be easy, but at least now he does have some level of self-sustain. Front might be in trouble. Gets initiated on by Zeratul, actually spears back in, but then spins away. Is going to be able to escape. Is Jaina in trouble? Not quite. Vedits is there, and I didn't even notice that Burgers for the Boys, I guess, is good for them. I guess Real Ultimate Mosh Pit didn't realize that either they had enough gems for the turn-in, and this is where we could see a transition from being more like Dragonshire to more like Battlefield of Eternity, as this is the opportunity for Sylvanas to start winning more, and it's very rare for teams to get more than a front wall with the Web Weaver push, maybe 2 front walls. But if you have Sylvanas and you manage to get a pick, you can pretty easily transition that into a fort. That being said, it looks like they're not really pushing the top lane, the lane with Sylvanas that aggressively is going to be cleared really quickly by the full members of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. So it's really a question whether or not mid lane's going to get a lot of value. We do see Jaina rotating up. ETC power slides in, catches all 4 members. Now Zul's in trouble, gets slowed by the Jaina. Verdestrom doing a good job peeling. With Overpower, is able to save his allies. Falstad doing his best to clear this. This is actually where I expect to see the most damage get done, now that I think about it. It's just Falstad may not have the means, even with Boomerang, to clear away this Web Weaver. The middle one is pushing as well, also gets front wall. So top front wall is still alive, albeit out of ammo. Mid front wall ends up going down, but they manage to clear the Web Weaver. And Falstad as well does lose the bot front walls. That's 2 front walls down, roughly what I predicted. And we're not able to transition the Sylvanas into a substantial lead. Do have about a 3rd level EXP lead, but this early in the game it's not really a whole lot. And now Real Ultimate Mosh Pit has enough gems for a turn-in of their own and are going to start looking for it Actually, they're baiting the turn-in right now. Patam maybe playing a little bit forward if that's what they were going for. Good peel there from Digstrom, allowing Falstad to turn in, so they do get a Web Weaver phase, basically uncontested. If I were Patam right now, I would be looking to go back and probably get some mana. Okay, he is going in for calling, so you can push with your Web Weaver wave more effectively and try to get some value out of it. Now, looking at the talents, we don't see anything really out of the ordinary, except we do see Overflowing Quiver again for Sylvanas. Not my first choice, but I guess whatever floats your boat. Apart from that, we see kind of like the regular builds coming in from everyone, with the main exception being Frost Armor for Jam, which is not something I expected. Probably just trying to mitigate the potential of getting blown up by Zeratul, since Zeratul is a pretty good Jaina counter. And so we now see Ultimate Mosh Pit going in. It looks like they're almost committing to this mid fort right now. 4 members here. Falstad still pushing, so we see a role reversal on the bot lane. Having to push against this front does look like he's having some level of difficulty. Top Web Weaver already cleared out. Will they be able to get any value? Patam playing really aggressively. ETC gets rooted and then chain stunned by Diablo. Is it going to be enough? I didn't think so, but a clutch root coming in from Minra does lock it in place long enough. The heals from Bravery are not quite there. And so this is going to be a fort going over in favor of Ultimate Mosh Pit, and they should take the EXP lead here, as well as be the first to hit 10. We also noticed that Falstad was able to push Sonya out of bot lane, so this is going to be even more structure damage here, take at least the well. Probably not the fort, as Sonya is coming back into the lane, but this should be enough to get some meaningful damage on it, drop it to at least half health. So a good play there from Ultimate Mosh Pit. Getting that pick on ETC was big. We see that someone has disconnected. I do not have... Alright, so we do have the pause coming out. It looks like Falstad disconnected. So we will have to wait and see what the problem is there. Since nothing is going on, I'm going to take a quick sip once again so my throat ceases being dry, so pardon me just a moment. That's refreshing. So anyway, have to wait and see. Yep, so people are saying that someone DC'd. He says that he is back, so we will presumably get back into this really quickly. Actually, okay, my bad, it wasn't the Falstad, it was actually the Zul. I confused who was who, despite the fact that there's a very obvious XUL on my screen that shows that he is the one that DC'd. So my apologies for that, getting the names mixed up. I don't quite have them all memorized. I'm relatively new to Division 2, considering I'm not actually supposed to be here, but don't tell management. Anyway, back into the game. Let me X out of this real quickly. And so we do see that it looks like, okay, this is a bit of a sneaky play coming in from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. Burst of the Void doesn't even have enough gems to turn in. Something like this happened the other day, where we saw a team go to turn in and the other one went for the boss to help counter push. But it looks like instead of taking boss, they're just using Sylvanas to take fort. If this boss also transitions into a fort, I actually think that's a trade in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. They're behind on EXP now, but if they manage to turn this into some structure damage, they won't be, especially if they manage to go mid and copper this couple with a Web Weaver wave. Could be an amazing play for Ultimate Mosh Pit. ETC's trying to sniff it out, does not have stage dive though, and are too late to get there. 55 gems exactly in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. If I were them, I would be beelining for the turn-in. Digstrom, however, playing really aggressively. I guess they decide they're going to do it afterwards instead of at the same time. Mixed feelings about that choice. I guess we do see Falstad top lane. Interesting Void Prison. I guess they're trying to set up for something. ACOG comes out. There goes the Twilight Dream as well, and that's a dead Sylvanas right now. Void Prison was interesting, but it worked. That being said, 4-man Mosh Pit coming out. The Gust! Clutch Gust coming in from Judge Red, interrupting the Mosh Pit and saving the life of Zul. And it will front and go down in exchange. There's the Stasis coming out from Bravery. It might have been unnecessary, just trying to make sure he survives. So they actually don't quite manage to turn this into a fort, but a good kill coming out from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, and they're going to follow it up immediately with a Web Weaver wave. The one thing I would be careful about is we noticed that Patam is low on mana. Hopefully an Innervate will come out soon to help him come back up. And so it looks like, I guess it may have been a Globe, not an Innervate. So, or are they going to decide to push with this? They're actually rotating to the bot lane instead. I think that's a clever play from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, realizing that Burgers for the Boys probably thought they would try to knock down this fort. Actually go for the bot one instead, and they're going to clear it out. So good rotation there from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, trying to maximize the structure damage. And they're going to hit 13 really soon, so things are not looking great for Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. Web Weaver just now descending right there. So it's unlikely they'll be able to get a keep out of this. It's technically possible if responses are really slow from Burgers from the Boys. But they do already have the first tower, and Minra's full mana will be able to heal up the members pretty easily. If I were Tom right now, I'd try to save all my mana for a team fight. Is there a flank coming out, or is there not? Sonya actually trying to hold this top fort. We see Zul's ult coming out to apply pressure to the keep. I don't know if I like Sonya staying top lane. I think I would have given up the fort there. There's ETC. Mosh Pit's still down, though. What exactly is going to happen? A lot of ults coming off of the cooldown. Here comes APOC and Void Prison. And this is going to be keep. I do think that was a misplay for Frontin and clearing that. Actually, hold on. Keep's still alive, though. What's going to happen? There's the VP, ends up actually catching Diablo as well, but ends up dodging. There's the Twilight Dream coming out way too early. Since the VP caught Dingstrom, he couldn't follow it up with APOC. There's Ring coming out, but there's the APOC. Does end up taking out the Sonya. Dingstrom in trouble, but managing to survive. Does have that Soul Shield to help keep him alive versus the Jaina poke. And that is finally going to be the keep. Took a little longer than normal, but things are looking really good for Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. Up almost a full two levels, as well as a 11-minute keep. I mean, not quite as impressive as a 9-minute keep, but still really good, as well as taking this bruiser. So we're seeing a bit of a reversal of the last game to this huge early game lead in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. I recognize that Burgers for the Boys wanted to keep that fort, but if you notice, the minions were enough to take it down anyway, so I would have definitely just sacrificed it and sent Sonya down earlier to try to make sure that you held that keep, because that's going to be very difficult to deal with, especially considering that, at least in my opinion, the bot keep is the most important one on this map. Some people would say that the top keep is because that's what opens the boss path to victory. But the thing is that if you have your bot keep open, that's just going to be constant pressure through the bot lane, which is actually going to make it really hard for you to defend bots, because other teams can just kind of dilly-dally around and wait for the catapults to start pushing your core. So really in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, or the Real Ultimate Mosh Pit here. What a name. Sonya initiates on Falstad, as does ETC. He goes in for the interrupt, almost ends up going down, though. Minra is just close enough, however, to get a heal off and save him. Tom going in, trying to cause some mayhem. Does have, actually, does he have Wormhole? What was that? I don't exactly know how he got in and out. Okay, so it was Seeker in the Dark that he used to jump in, and then he used his Blink to get back out. A little confusion there. I used to play a lot of Zeratul, but have not since the rework, even though it was quite some time ago. So I'm not intimately familiar with all of the changes to his kit just quite yet. And we see a VP, defensive VP coming out. Will the Root land? Root actually comes out too early. APOC, however, is just on time. Puts a lot of damage on the Sylvanas. The Ariel tries to save him. Man, there's just a lot of chaos going on. Ring of Frost hits multiple targets, but another good gust coming in from Judge Bread disengages. So I was actually expecting to see the Hinterland Blast come out and used as a tool to help with the Wamo combo, especially considering that's what he opted for last game. But I must say, I'm actually really impressed there. At least I think it was the Falstad. Am I getting the Falstad teams confused? I don't think I am. Maybe it was a different player on the Falstad. I don't know. Watch the replay and tell me if I'm wrong. Anyway, what I'm just trying to say is that I'm really impressed with the Gust play here. It's been working out extremely well for them. And can I start a petition right now to freaking nerf Gust, man? 60-second cooldown for a disengage like that is pretty absurd. But that's a little beside the point. We see that the Blue Web Weavers did actually wind up getting summoned for Burgers for the Boys, but because of the fact that they lost the team fight immediately following, they wound up basically just being deep pushing Web Weavers, getting almost no value. Rolf in a little bit of trouble, gets initiated on by ETC, and slowed by Jaina, who actually ends up missing her cone due to the displacement. The heals from Alfurion are enough to keep Zul alive, as well as the skeletal mages used as a zoning tool to help Real Ultimate Mosh Pit get out of dodge. So no one dies there for Ultimate Mosh Pit. Still maintaining a over 2-level lead, which is currently manifested in a talent tier, and only one gem away for another turn-in, so this could very easily be another keep in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit. Technically, game could come from this. It would be very difficult and would basically rely on Burgers for the Boys feeding 5 for nothing. But it's technically a possibility. They realize that boss is up and are posturing near it, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. We see Falstad going bot lane, taking these siege camps. He's going to be pushing with the catapults. That being said, they realized that the spot camp was taken. Good Mosh Pit, followed by Ring of Frost coming in, absolutely deleting Malfurion. The Gust tries to disengage as well as the VP. That being said, it's still a 5v4 right now. Ariel forced to shield herself. Does have full energy though. Beated's in front and going all in. But that being said, the fort is still there. Mostef trying to shut it down. They just do not have what it takes to push in, so they've got to do something fast. They either have to commit to this boss, get another kill. Frontin in trouble. Okay, I thought he was going to get blown up there by Zeratul, but just enough heals coming out from Bravery to stop him. So that being said, they're still too low health. Ariel is not great at healing up people after fights, really much better at healing during them. So they end up just backing out, gonna end up trying to protect their structures, go and clear this huge bot line that's pushing with 3 catapults in a siege camp. Speaking of 3 catapults in a siege camp, apparently they're enough to kill Sylvanas. So yeah, I guess a bit of a misplay coming in there, underestimating the AoE damage. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that turns into something big. It basically looks like Real Ultimate Mosh Pit was going to get a turn in no matter what, so that's not really the problem. It's just a matter of whether or not Sylvanas will be up in time to contest stuff. It actually looks like Real Ultimate Mosh Pit is going to go for boss again. I don't know whether or not those minions caught vision of them or not, but I don't see a rotation coming in from Burgers for the Boys, so I don't know. They might be looking to end the game here if they grab boss and follow up with the Web Weavers. That's going to be boss and Web Weavers pushing through top, Web Weavers and Catapults pushing through bot. It's really only mid lane that's going to be de-pushed because of this Bruiser. So another strong boss play coming in from Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, and that's already taken without a chance for Burgers for Boys to even respond. It looks like they didn't even know. And so now they're going to go straight for the turn-in, and this could very well be a game. They're going for the turn-in now. Burst for the Boys not even going for the interrupt. They're just trying to burst this boss as quickly as they can. Meanwhile, that does open up the mid lane for Real Ultimate Mosh Pit to go ahead and clear this Bruiser and start pushing. And so we see all 5 of them pushing through mid. Taking a quick peek, I don't see any other talents really out of the ordinary. I just want to take a quick note of that, see if there's anything interesting, but it looks like it's mostly just kind of cookie cutter builds. Nothing too strange. And we see that they're already applying pressure to this keep, knocking it down to half health before the Web Weaver even gets there. Verdestrom is out of position though. Does his best to charge in and stop it. Did he actually? So he did take Speed Demon at 4. Turned out it was a good choice, allowed him to disengage after the ETC initiated. There comes the VP APOC combo, but once again, it's just not quite on point. The Ring of Frost, however, lands on Zeratul, but it's not enough. The backlash is enough to kill the Sonya. Mosh Pit attempt from ETC gets interrupted, however. Doesn't matter though, Zul still gets bursted by Jaina, so it's 1 for 1 right now. That being said, Beatrix is going to have to go back to heal as Ariel can't heal him up herself. And that is going to be mid-keep going down. Just 1 keep still up for Burgers for the Boys, and although I don't think this is going to be game quite yet, considering the disparity of the death timers, this is 3 keeps down in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, whereas Burger for the Boys only has 1 lone fort, so things are certainly not looking good for them, especially considering that Real Ultimate Mosh Pit now has 20. And we see Bone Spear coming out for Zul, Nexus Frenzy for Falstad capitalizing on that auto tag build, Bolt of the Storm from Malfurion possibly for some either escapes or Bolt Twilight Dream shenanigans, Rewind for Zeratul for a maximum burst. Diablo actually holding on to his. We'll have to see whether or not he ends up going Hellgate, or if he realizes he's going to die and snap picks the APOC talent. Actually, no, he goes straight for Hellgate. Isn't going to worry about any snap pick shenanigans. And that's going to be it for now. A little bit of a lull here, even though Tomb of the Spider Queen you have all 3 keeps down, but you still can't really push, even with a level 20 advantage, onto core against 5 people. It just doesn't work, but maybe it'll do it against 4 people. Vid's checking for the turn-in, not quite sure why. I guess he was going to go in himself. Ends up dropping 31 gems. That's devastating for Burgers for the Boys, even though I don't think a single Web Weaver wave would have been enough to even things out. That's not good. And it looks like Real Ultimate Mosh Pit might be looking for game. That's a 40-second death timer. Zeratul's trying to find the enemy. If they manage to get another Void Prison combo and get 1 more pick, that could be it. Do they go for it? Do they not? It looks like it. They're pushing 5 people through mid. Zeratul a little behind. Is VP going to come out? Is it not? ETC still dead for another 20 seconds. As I was saying, it's hard to end the game on Tomb of the Spider Queen 5v5, but 5v4 is a little easier. Tom gets initiated on by Sonya. Blink ends up coming out, and they're just going straight on the court. Twilight Dream comes out silencing Sonya. Ring of Frost hits just Diablo with the Spell Shield. I'm going to get a lot of that damage. Just coming out for at 55%. Sonya doing her best to apply pressure, but ends up going down. Dinkstrom as well is really low on health, but the core's at 15%. VP on Ariel 4-3-0, and that is going to be game and match going over in favor of Real Ultimate Mosh Pit, demonstrating that despite the fact that they lost in 14 minutes in the last game, they do know what they were doing. Maybe we just put a little off kilter, is that the phrase? I think that's the phrase, on Battlefield of Eternity. Maybe hadn't practiced it as much, weren't prepared for the carnage that was going to be wrought upon them. But they pulled it all together in the last game, showed that they didn't need ETC to win, and pulled out with a victory. Amazing match coming from both teams there. great back and forth, but in the end, your Ultimate Mosh Pit was solid enough. We're able to use wombo combos to their advantage, as well as just general strong play all around. So congratulations to your Ultimate Mosh Pit. Good play from Burgers for the boys. I was really happy to be able to cast this match. And so for those of you who are either watching now or tuning in, this has been a Division 2 Chair League match between Burgers for the Boys and the Ultimate Mosh Pit. I have been your host, Verdestrom. I am going to try to snipe another game in the near future, so there's a possibility I might be back in about 15 minutes. There's another Div 2 game without a caster starting at 9 p.m. PT 11 Central, and so I will see whether or not I can fill that spot. If so, I will see you in just a few. I'll close down the stream either way just so I can keep the VOD separated because I have no idea what I'm doing, and that's the most effective way to do it. So either way, thanks all of you for watching, and I will see you next time.